Hey guys, so right now I'm going to react to How Strong is Bakugo? And this is from Nucha. Sorry I butchered your name. And I'm planning on getting like a Bakugo jacket hoodie for, I would say, next month. I actually really like Bakugo as a character. I know he was like a total asshole since season 1, but as the season continues, after seeing that growth and that maturity, that bro really impressed me and got me to like him. What can I say? I'm a sucker for character growth. Anyway, I got nothing else to say. Let's get this going. Game 3, 2, 1.
With the final season of My Hero Academia, Bakugo has been getting more attention than ever, especially with the slander of Bakugo vs Leze, so it feels like the perfect time to ask.
Yeah, I keep seeing that thing from everyone, and pretty much everybody gonna say Rize gonna win. Like, for crying out loud, how people can be this delusional? At this point, I was thinking about watching Chainsaw Man, but after after seeing keep hearing about that reason when well, because of the yada yada, bro. At this point, this just does not make me want to watch freaking Chainsaw Man. Like, for crying out loud, there's a difference between Bakugo and Rize, and I'm pretty sure this dude is going to tell us.
How strong is Bakugo really? To measure Bakugo's strength, we're going to analyze his feats, statements, and everything in between. But before that, if you have any video suggestions, drop them in the Discord. That's where I'll be collecting all ideas. And if you enjoy this type of content, the goal is 20k, so if you enjoy, sub up. To begin, let's start with his attack potency. Bakugo's attack potency comes primarily from his explosion quirk. One of his earlier feats is during the UA Sports Festival battle against Ochako. Surrounded by a massive shower of debris lifted by Ochako's zero gravity, Bakugo clears it out with a single blast. This explosion was calculated to be around 5.13 tons of TNT, subtly placing it at large building level in destructive power to start. Even a basic blast from Bakugo can level structures, unlike some other characters we may know. Through training, his attack potency is often scaled to city block level during the middle arcs, supported by feats like obliterating large sections of an urban training ground. He also developed specialized techniques like the AP shot, although that is more so attack potency rather than raw destructive capacity.
I would say it's more
Bakugo
versatility.
also has techniques to amplify his attack potency beyond his base output. His ultimate move in the main canon is a Howitzer impact, where he propels himself in a spiraling motion to create a tornado of oxygen before detonating a gigantic explosion on the target. This move is comparable to an actual missile by President Mike in universe, and it delivers by far Bakugo's biggest single hit up until that point. In the manga's Endeavor Agency arc and the third movie of World's Heroes Mission, Bakugo uses upgraded versions of Howitzer Impact that annihilate his targets. Notably, in World's Heroes Mission, he one-shots a pair of enhanced villains called the Serpentes with a powered-up Howitzer Impact. The blast is so strong that calculations put it at small town level plus of destruction. This is a huge step up from his earlier showings, and it solidifies that Bakugo's AP with his strongest move can reach well beyond the city block size of explosions, and quite comfortably as well. And mind you, this is pretty early on in the series. It gets even crazier under special circumstances. During the climax of Heroes Rising, Bakugo temporarily wielded One for All, the quirk normally held by Deku. This dramatically boosted all of his stats, including the power of his explosions. With both Bakugo and Deku using One for All, they performed a combined attack that utterly crushed the villain 9. Initially, Bakugo's attack with One for All is calculated to melt a mountain. That mountain explosion had a hard time destroying 9's barrier, which Deku destroyed the rest and continues to become stronger, which would grant Deku mountain level plus of strength. You could also argue that their tandem blast dispersed storm clouds with an energy yield in order of 153 gigatons of TNT, basically large Alden level of power. But it doesn't end there, as Bakugo alone has shown higher tiers of power than this in the actual series. During the final war arc, Bakugo's quirk undergoes an awakening and dramatically increases the power of his explosions, allowing him to produce them from his entire body. This power is put to test against All For One Shigaraki, a character who has been enhanced to have durability comparable to Prime All Might, or even higher. In their fight, Bakugo's awakened cluster and Hauser impact attacks are shown to be powerful enough to seriously injure Shigaraki, bypassing his regeneration and causing him to panic. Shigaraki himself admits Bakugo's attacks were amazing and a genuine threat he needed to eliminate. Prime All Might and the final act Deku, who perform a feat that disrupted clouds on a Continental Plus scale, are rated at multi-continental plus levels of AP, granting Bakugo this level of scaling as well, which I will explain later as to why it's valid. However, with high-end interpretations, Bakugo could scale greatly above this. But let's first take a look at his speed before we move on to these higher interpretations. Bakugo was very athletic from the start. During the quirk apprehension test on day 1, he traveled 50 meters in 4.13 seconds. But the real speed feats come when he uses his explosions for propulsion. By blasting from his palms, Bakugo can accelerate and maneuver in midair. In terms of measurable combat speed, Bakugo starts off able to keep pace with Deku at 5% one for all. Deku at 5% was already faster than normal humans, easily bullet timing in later arcs. So Bakugo hanging with him means his reaction and combat movements are at least supersonic to start. However, as Bakugo's explosions grew in power, his speed scaled up as well. Although in order to scale him properly, we need to take a look at how he compares to other characters. At equivalent points in the story, Bakugo typically had an edge until Deku learned to control more of One For All. Early on, Deku at 5% or 8% full cowling wasn't enough to beat Bakugo in their second fight. Bakugo won that deal, showing he was handling the power Deku had at the time. However, as Deku progressed to 20 to 30% and higher percentages of One For All, he began outpacing Bakugo in raw power. By the time of the war arc, Deku could momentarily push 100% with gear support and had multiple quirks, making him more versatile and arguably stronger overall. But Bakugo wasn't far behind. He was still able to fight alongside Deku effectively. Some argue that Bakugo at his peak is roughly on par with 30 to 45% full cowling Deku in power and speed, based on how they perform against common enemies. It's telling that during the fight with Shigaraki, Bakugo and Deku together were needed. Bakugo provided firepower and distraction that complemented Deku's heavier hits, though Deku has since pulled ahead with further One For All mastery. Still, in a more grounded comparison, Bakugo versus Deku would be a decent fight. With that said, we can now take a look at Deku's speed. As for a better and more consistent scale to where Deku's speed would actually scale, Deku would easily be faster than Light Plus, via the fact that Aoyama's beams are stated to be light speed, since it's directly stated and shown to be light through the way it reflects and refracts through Hakure, who is invisible because she refracts light. Mina then dodged the beam at close range, which was calculated to be 1.27 times the speed of light. Chimera is able to react to the laser, which comes out at 1.5 times the speed of light, and Todoroki can keep up with full power Chimera, which would even put him at least relative to these speeds. Deku at 10% during the Endeavor's agency arc can move at the same speed as Todoroki's eyes, scaling 10% Deku to this level of speed as well, therefore also granting Bakugo this speed. But in addition, one of the weaker characters in the series, 13, has a quirk Black Hole, which can absorb anything, including light, which ultimately renders Aoyama's laser completely useless, further supporting the argument that Aoyama's lasers are indeed moving at the speed of light or above. However, for the sake of the scale, our lowball weakened All Might to Mina's speed. He should be much faster though. All Might said he was 60 times stronger in Prime, which should apply to his speed and increasing all stats at the same rate, which would be 1.5 times 60, equaling 90 times faster than light. So in conclusion, Deku's speed would be 90 times faster than light, but adding on Fajin, which is 2.6 times amp, then gear shift, being 2.2 time amp, then combining both to be an overall 5 time amp, Deku's speed would reach a whopping 2,574 times the speed of light, or massively faster than light plus. But to back it up even further, All for One should be faster than light at bare minimum, as he can speed blitz the fighter jets that were able to react to radio waves at a close distance, as well as to be able to go toe-to-toe with Prime All Might, who had the same speed as Shigaraki. He was able to blitz Star and Stripe, who also reacted to both light rays and radio waves. Now bringing it back, Bakugo crosses a huge distance with his nitroglycerin boosters before All for One notices him. But more impressively, Deku aims Bakugo using Gear Shift, and upon doing so, he's thrown all the way down towards All Might, effectively saving him from All for One. This feat will be calculated at MFTL Plus from the boost he gets. And mind you, even at Gear Shift's lowest level, Deku can Perception Blitz Shigaraki, which means that at the very least, Gear Shift Deku would be over 1000 times faster than light. And like I mentioned before, Bakugo wouldn't be far off Deku, and with a one-time Gear Shift giving him 1000 times boost, Bakugo
that was like temporarily
be massively faster than light plus, considering he performed the feat with Shigaraki. However, as I mentioned before, there are some high-end interpretations for Bakugo and the My Hero universe as a whole, that being the world that One for All's Vestiges exists, and it has some interesting stuff to show. So we'll outline that here. The world where the Vestiges of One for All reside is described as an actual realm of its own. With it also stated to be a world. The Vestige world, on multiple instances, is shown to be essentially an endless-sized realm with no real barriers. As a result, showings of a black sphere representing a planet inside the realm can't be used to prove it's only a planetary-sized realm, as is shown even in the same panel that the realm extends beyond the black sphere, proving that world in this context is not solely referring to a planet. To add on to this, we're shown that this realm has its own time flow, as Deku was showing having conversations with the Vestiges as time was passing in the real world, with All Might even assuming he was directly talking to them. The anime adaptation of My Hero Academia shows that this realm also has massive cloud fog resembling that of a nebula. Since we know this dimension is a realm/world, it would make sense for this dimension to be a universe with its own time flow. Since the Vestige world is directly described as a world or a realm and is visually depicted as an endless space that extends beyond the planetary black sphere shown within it, and further proven to possess its own independent time flow as seen when Deku interacts with the Vestiges while time continues in the real world, it logically follows that the Vestige world functions as a separate space-time continuum, effectively its own universe-like dimension. As a result, the realm would scale to low 2C or universal plus. Shigaraki scales to the Vestige world due to him being able to destroy it as shown in the anime as well as the manga. And due to quirks scaling to one's own attack potency, this also makes Shigaraki low 1C or universal plus, thereby scaling Bakugo to a similar degree, or 3A if we lowball him a bit from Shigaraki. But also, there is a scan revolving Bakugo that states, to land the final blow, Bakugo compresses an energy output rivaling the Big Bang. And I know this kind of sounds ridiculous, but you can take this as you will. And yes, I know this is an extremely wanked interpretation, but I wanted to mention it nonetheless. However, with all that being said, how strong is Bakugo? At a baseline interpretation, Bakugo can scale to multi-continental plus for attack potency and MFTL plus for speed, again scaling off All for One and Deku and such. And on a super high and mega wank interpretation, Bakugo can scale to Uni plus. However, that was more so something I thought might be interesting to mention, so it's entirely up to you on how you want to interpret this. But all I can say is, after all of this, Bakugo 1000% beats Leather in a fight, and most Chainsaw Man characters as well. However, I am still with the Leather agenda, so if you want to watch a video analyzing her psychology and hidden symbolism, go check this video right here.
Okay, so that was how strong is Bakugo. And seriously, this dude, freaking Bakugo, scales up to freaking multi-continental and literally massively faster than light speed. You know how crazy fast that is? But all I know is that Bakugo is fast enough to keep up with all for one. I know that his explosives are ridiculously strong as hell. They're strong enough to literally injure Shigaraki. But I did know his explosive can reach to that kind of level. So I gotta do my research. And yeah, how the hell are you gonna be something like that? Anyways, so that's today's video. If you like it, hit the like button, comment down below, hit the subscribe button. Until then, later, guys.